So let's move to 15 minutes presentation. We're going to talk about the growing role of F&B in mixed development. Please welcome Mr. Daniel Morgan.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's working, I assume. You can hear me? Thank you. So today we're going to run through the growing role of F&B in mixed-use developments. And, obviously thank you to everybody for, the previous comments. Some really important things touched on, which essentially was sort of this sort of lifestyle and social connection, which we'll go into a little bit more. So the growing role of F&B in mixed-use developments, what does that mean? I mean, for some people, that's going to be the most important thing, isn't it? It's going to be asset value, how it increases the asset value. So I'm going to sort of talk through a few of those things today. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about us, if you don't mind. I'm Daniel Morgan, partner at TGP International. We're a global 360 hospitality agency, if you like. And whilst there's a few bullet points up there, there's sort of four main key areas that we work within. The first being very much sort of advisory services. Advisory services can be your traditional concept development that F&B hospitality companies do. For a hotel group, we work with most of the larger ones. But advisory services can also be this F&B master planning, and that's what I'm probably going to get into a little bit more today. There's a final slide on that, so I won't delve too much into that now, but as I talk through the themes, it will end on that, and I can tell you how it all comes together. We also internally do all our own design. That's interior design and graphic design. We like to say we don't have a house style. As I say, we work with all of the big hotel companies, we work with all the big private clients, the government agencies, and develop projects that are very sort of client-centric. Our third pillar then is franchising and licensing, and that's quite important to mention. I'll come back into the curation part of F&B master planning where we layer that in. And then we also, quite rarely for F&B consultants, in fact very rarely, I think we're one of the few, we also operate. So certainly myself and our chairman, Mr. Simon Wright, we come from an operations background, so as well as F&B advisory services, of course, we're really looking at through the sort of operator's lens, if you like. It's absolutely key that we deliver for our clients and that we get ROI and increase asset value on the project. We have offices in London, our historic office, 22 years old. We operate an office in Dubai. We have an office in Riyadh, of course, it's booming at the moment. We have an office in Cairo, and we're also opening an office with our partners in Nairobi in Kenya. So as we advance from the UK through Europe, through the GCC, we'll be coming back into Africa, and what a wonderful opportunity that is. The key themes of today that I'm going to take you through, it's really the sort of asset value derived through F&B, or the increased asset value, the halo effect of F&B and what it can do for your development, driving visitation into mixed-use developments, pushing up rents through strategic F&B. F&B as a key footfall driver. I'm going to touch a little bit on food halls, because they're a hot topic at the moment, and a little bit on competitive socializing, which is obviously another trend line that we look at. And then I'll come back to the F&B master planning, ensuring it's we create the heart of the community. Rooms are great, but a bed's a bed, right? A restaurant gets you going. You're excited to go out. You want to go out. You want to do F&B. You want to have a dynamic experience. Whilst we all love lifestyle hotels, and we really think they're curated from quality F&B. Just to touch on a couple of points here, of course, we tried to do a little bit of homework, and I'm sure there's much more educated people in the room than myself when I talk about the sort of incredible aims for Morocco, certainly around this incredible news about securing the FIFA World Cup with in terms of securing a number of games from that. From that, and Morocco aims, to attract 1.2 billion in tourism and infrastructure, and this F&B master planning really does sort of play a key role in that, especially with the legacy perspective. We've got to touch on legacy. We did Expo City Dubai, we did the master planning there. The success is in the legacy. It's not in the building it, it's not in the creating it. As well, we've obviously got a picture on the screen there of Morocco Mall, which is an incredible asset, and we'll be very excited to see that come online. Asset value derived through F&B. And we're going to touch on a sort of a few examples here. It's essentially around boosting footfall, about boosting traffic. You boost your footfall, you boost your numbers, you boost your average spend, you increase your dwell time, and what you have increased revenue. So it's really as simple as that. It's about creating a compelling offering that speaks to the community and that essentially targets a broad, wider market and segmentation, and essentially strengthens the property's brand, wherever that F&B sits, whether it's in a mixed-use development, whether it's in a hotel property, whether it's in a new city you're building. The halo effect of F&B. The images on the screen here are of a venue called Al Mamlaka Social Dining, which was 2.5 years in planning and was delivered around a year ago. And I would say it's the benchmark now in Riyadh for destination-orientated dining. It's a food hall. And while the big push into Riyadh was all about luxury, it wasn't about luxury. It was about high-quality F&B that delivers on its promise. So in this venue, which is located at Kingdom Centre, which is probably the building that everybody recognizes in Riyadh. The overall development had very little F&B in terms of its offering. So by bringing in this compelling project, it's had a huge impact in terms of numbers. And when we talk about numbers, this place is doing 5,000 covers a day. And that is an average. Obviously, it flexes up at weekends, and we've just increased the seating from 500 to 700. So we'll be looking at pushing those numbers over 6,000, 7,000 plus. What effect has that had on the rest of the development? And I can tell you, and it's quite interesting because people ask me about, what's the ROI on something like this? This must cost $20 million to build. Well, it does. But it has a huge impact in terms of the adjacencies. So all of the areas around it, in terms of the retail offering, were empty. Now they're full. This was a department store. This was a Debenhams. They didn't know what to do with it. And this is what you can do with it. And this is what you can do with a compelling F&B offering. We touched on the sort of, the driving visitations that, we know it's about footfall. We know it's about driving footfall. And for Al Mamlaka, and this is Kingdom Centre here, as I say, most people probably recognize it. There was a need to improve the asset, not just around F&B. It's had an upgrade in terms of hotel rooms. There's a Four Seasons there. The retail space is also being upgraded. Most of the big names are in terms of the luxury tenants, but they suffered with general footfall. So by completing this ecosystem, by putting in high-quality F&B at the right price point, This isn't just about bringing in Zuma and all the big-name restaurants. This is about bringing in something that touches the local community. So by bringing that in, we've really driven the numbers up, and as an overall destination, that ecosystem is really sort of built out. It's an incredible story, and of course not our only one. We work on many projects like this. The rent, pushing up rent, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Probably not the right terminology. Sounds a bit tough, but the asset managers in the room will at least appreciate it. What do we mean by pushing up the rent? And again, we'll touch on this food hall model a little bit. We build the asset, we curate the asset, we bring in the operators to run the different kitchens in these spaces. Great for the concessions coming in, great for the chefs that are coming in that maybe wouldn't have got a chance to spend the money developing their own outlet. But there is one thing we do get back, and we get back higher rents. So we're pushing, the market is around 30% turnover rent. So in terms of the ROI you get back, it's pretty positive. Not to mention the footfall driver, because also the adjacency. So every different asset around us is now driving more footfall. Increased valet parking numbers, increased stay in hotel rooms. It all has an effect. I think we touched on this, F&B being the sort of key footfall driver. And times have changed, The old days, big box entertainment really led the footfall, didn't it? Developer mindset's changed. Again, I've picked up a couple of points on lifestyle. How important is it to your lifestyle that you engage in a space, in a restaurant space, or in a lounge, or in a beach club? How important is that to your lifestyle? And it's become more and more important, how people see that as an extension of themselves. And F&B has sort of grown and grown and grown. And I can talk about Covent Garden, talk about DIFC in Dubai. DIFC in Dubai, is it really known for being a financial centre, or is it known for housing some of the best restaurants? It's actually the restaurants, really. That's what drives numbers there. That's why the rents are higher. So F&B, in our opinion, has now, and not just our opinion, but generally, has become a huge footfall driver, and really becomes the heart and the soul of so many sort of destinations that we visit today. What's the key differentiator between going to one mall versus another? It's probably what you're going to eat, isn't it? Because all the shops are the same. The food hall model, I'll briefly touch on this. Because it's an incredible model, and it's one that people are so interested in. I think we've developed around 5, 6, 7. We were involved in the original Time Out. We did the first in Dubai, which was Depa Chica. This was the first to the kingdom. And we've got about 10 of them under development at the moment. They're a developer's dream, right? Absolute dream. Great ROI, push all the numbers through, all of the additional revenue that flows through. Low risk, right? Because everybody else is doing the operations. That's the hardest thing in F&B. You bring in the best operators, they don't perform, and you bring in a new one. An absolute must-have for many developers now when they're looking at what they're going to do with their spaces in a mixed-use development. And in terms of ROI, 4 years, possibly a little bit less, but it's what it does as an anchor tenant within that development that's really, really interesting. The next trend I'm going to just touch on, because again, we're in the business of trends. Actually, trend lines. I don't necessarily like trends. Competitive socializing in the digital age. Isn't it interesting, this competitive socializing, because it almost plays this sort of nostalgic role. And I read a statistic recently that human beings today have never been so lonely. Pretty sad, isn't it? Everybody's on their phone, everybody's looking at Instagram, everybody's looking at Snapchat, but people are lonely. Human beings need to engage, they want to interact, and by creating these social spaces, this is how you do it, and this is not something that we've created. We do create them, but it's important to understand that, for me, in terms of creating a mixed-use asset, what's absolutely key to it, and it's that sense of community, that sense of belonging. And I think that the competitive socializing field certainly touches a lot of those points, and I'm sure we'll start to see more of that globally and regionally. Okay, F&B master planning. I remember when I first heard about F&B master planning, I was offered a job in Dubai in 2006 to talk about F&B master planning with Emar doing Dubai Mall. I was like, what is it? What are you talking about? You just get the leasing teams to come in, don't you? Well, that's the problem, because the leasing teams are only interested in who pays the highest rent, because that's what they're rewarded on. That doesn't give you a heart of a community. It doesn't give you the best chances of survival in this challenging market. You need to create adjacencies. You need to create activations. And it's not just about restaurants. It's about entertainment. You know, it's about complementary retail, dining, entertainment, lifestyle. We go back to that extension again. We work on a number of projects for, you know, big cities, small cities, and it's absolutely key in the planning stages that you get it right, because failure isn't an option. And how do you get it right? You get to know your local market, you get your curation right, and it's not about bringing in big overseas brands. It's not what it's about. It's about bringing in the best of local and balancing it with something new and giving people a chance to survive and not killing them with rent in the beginning. You've got to position it correctly. You've got to build it correctly. You've got to have the right access to it. And in order to do that, and in order to create success, and the end result of what I consider to be successful communities then that have F&B as a footfall driver, they've generally been master planned from the beginning. Okay. Looks like I'm out of time. So what I've got next is a little gift for you all. You know, we're in the hospitality business. So here we've got please feel free to download our trends report. In this, we touch on, what have we got in here today? We've got top F&B trends. F&B redefines urban developments. The rise of social dining experiences. We touch on sustainability and inclusivity. Really important to us and something that I haven't discussed today. We talk about traditional F&B offerings being reimagined, about F&B playing a major role in community building, and I really, really mean that about that sense of community. Strategic design and how it underpins F&B success, and then how inclusivity permeates through F&B design. So please feel free. Thank you very much for your time today. I'm here with some colleagues of mine. If anybody would like to have a chat, come and say hello. I'm quite friendly. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much.